Now, what is there good to say about all this? Here's what, when I look at the life of Jacob, I admire that guy. Because here's what I see about Jacob. Jacob is a guy that always shows up. He's no big spiritual rocket scientist. He's not praying and worshiping and seeking the faith. You know who he is? He's a hard worker who doesn't quit, that keeps his word, that is able to endure 14 years of this stuff. 14 years. That's a long time to be somewhere. Most of us haven't even kept jobs 14 years. 14 years that the same guys, working for the same guy in extraordinarily dysfunctional circumstances. He shows up. And what God does throughout that course of time is he begins to shape and change and mold and strengthen Jacob and turn him into something that can be used by God. He's still got a long ways to go. But you and I don't have very many problems that we can't solve by simply showing up to life. And I mean that sincerely. Here's what we do when we hit hard times. We check out. Don't show up to job. Don't get out of bed. Check out of our marriage. Walk out on our kids. Walk out on our friends. Walk out on our church. We stop showing up, right? And when we stop showing up, we lose. God has this foolproof plan that we cannot miss on. And the only thing that disqualifies us is when we check out. So of all the things we can say negative about Jacob, and there's a lot, the guy shows up. Day after day after day after day. He works for the same guy year after year after year after year. And he's got 6 more years he's going to work for this guy. He shows up. He keeps responding. He keeps moving forward. He's got all kinds of messes. His family's a mess. His relationship with his dad is a mess. His relationship with his wives are a mess. I mean, good Lord, I got one wife and 2 kids. And I go, ah! I can't even imagine 14 of them. 4 wives and 11 kids, 15 of them. Good grief. He keeps showing up year after year after year. There's a lot to be said for that. This is not a great, deep theological message. But if you're in a place that's difficult for you, here's what I got to tell you. The only thing that disqualifies you, the only thing that makes us lose is when we stop showing up. When you continue to show up day after day after day, God tends to start working things out. When you show up as a husband, when you show up as a father or as a wife or a mother or a brother or a sister or a parishioner, a friend, as you continue to show up, God continues to work, because we think God's doing this and God's looking down going, no, I ain't doing that. No, I'm doing a whole different thing. But you just keep showing up because I got this thing I'm doing. You don't need to know all the details. When we show up and let God work, even if we don't get all of it, God takes our human mess and he begins to do things. And you say to yourself, well, but Jim, I can't show up. I can't come to church. I can't hang with God's people. I can't go to my... Do you know what kind of mess my life is? Do you know what kind of terrible relationship I have with my parent? You know what? You got a bad relationship with your parents? Look, everybody has issues with their parents. Everybody does. Everybody does. And if you've got kids that are small now and you think they're going to have, Philip and Sophie will have issues with me, I can assure you of that. Everybody has issues with their parents. Is your spouse driving you nuts? Guess what? Everybody's spouse drives them nuts. Just go ask Maria. She has a whole list. Do you have family struggles? Do you have some things in your family that's kind of hard? You kind of, yeah, everybody. We've all got that uncle. They're all like, you don't want to stay alone with him for very long. We've all got this stuff in our family. Do you got a job you can't stand? Yeah, guess what? A lot of us work in jobs we don't like. Do y'all have bosses that drive you nuts? Yeah, a lot of us have bosses that drive us nuts. The only thing that keeps us moving forward is when we stop showing up. I ain't going to go to work. It's too much. I ain't going. Yeah, can't stay married to that woman anymore. Can't stay married to that man. These kids are driving me nuts. There's got to be a better way. I'm out. That church, pastor honked me off. I'm out. That boss, can't stand that guy. I'm out. This is what the human condition is. The human condition is one of travail, one of problems. We're fallen. That's what life is, dealing with a whole bunch of crap that none of us want to deal with. But that's what life is. And we show up for it. And we let God work in it. And God begins to take our junk in our mess, and he begins to do something marvelous. Note what the writer of Ecclesiastes says. Verse in chapter 9. He says, whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. Whatever it is. If you got a job you don't like, do it with all your might. If you got a marriage that's driving you crazy, do it with all your might. If you got children that you're struggling with, do it with all your might. If you have a disability that keeps you from working, well then do something. Go get yourself educated. Go learn to do something. Serve in the church. If you have friends, then be friendly to people. Help people out. Ask yourself this question. Who are you helping? I mean that. Right now do it. Who are you helping? And if you come up with nobody, guess what? You ain't a friend. Period. I can't put it to you any more plainly than that. Who are you helping? Is the world any better because you take up space? Because you're breathing in air? The only thing that disqualifies you is if you don't show up. Jacob shows up. Here's what continue with Ecclesiastes. Whatever you find to do, do with all your might. Do it with all your might, for the grave where you are going, there is neither working, nor planning, nor knowledge, or wisdom. Do it with all your might, because pretty soon you're going to be dead. And you can't do nothing dead. You have a window of time to do something that is going to bear eternal significance. And you say, but I'm not smart. I'm not strong. I'm not fast. Here's what he says. The race is not to the swift. The battle is not to the strong, nor does food come to the wise, or wealth to the brilliant, or favor to the learned. But time and chance happen to them all. In other words, keep showing up. Show up as a friend. Show up as a father. Show up as a husband. Show up as a wife. Show up as a mother. Show up as a brother. Show up as a sister. Show up. Step into God's redemptive purpose and God's redemptive plan. Don't wait till you're perfect. That ain't going to happen. Don't wait till your family's perfect. That ain't going to happen either. Don't wait till you've resolved issues with your parents, because that ain't going to happen either. Okay? You're always going to have those things. And this is my favorite. Don't wait until you got all your bad habits figured out. That's my favorite one. If I've heard it once, I've heard it 1,000 times. I can't do that. I got too many bad habits in my life. Yeah, you do. We've all got bad habits. The way we get rid of bad habits is by stepping fully into God's redemptive purposes and God's redemptive plan. We're not promised, get this you guys, everybody's zeroing now. We're not promised that life is going to be cushy and easy. In fact, we're told when humanity fell that we're now going to work by the sweat of our brow. The work for man and the work for women was going to be hard. We're promised that. The world is fallen. We're never promised a cushy, easy life. What we are promised is a new day. Every day is a new day, filled with God's love and God's grace. All we have to do is step into it. Show up. Show up and live in God's grace and his favor, and you're going to be just fine. You got it? We all going to show up? Let's say it. I'm showing up. God bless you. Have a great week.